What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Paddock, and today I'm going to show you how to play jazz Christmas songs. Tis the season for Christmas carols, so instead of playing the bland, old, boring, straight Christmas carols today, I'm going to show you how to play Christmas carols in a jazz style, as well as how to ad-lib on them and make them sound way better. Before we dive into the tutorial, I'd like to thank Legere Reads for sponsoring my videos for the month of December. As I told you in my last video, they're going to be sponsoring 8 of my videos this month, and in each video I'm going to tell you a different thing that I really like about Legere. The first thing I told you in my last video was consistency and how I love the consistency of their reads. The second thing that I absolutely love is, as a teacher, I have my students, my beginner and intermediate students for sure, use Legere Signature reads. I start them off on a 2 or a 2.5, and I know by having them play a Legere that it's not their read. You know, you never know when it's a good read or a bad read, or the read is placed in the wrong spot or whatever else. When they have the Legeres, it's no problem. We never think about reads. So if you are a saxophone teacher or a beginner or intermediate saxophone player, I highly suggest trying Legere Signatures because it gets rid of the guesswork of, is my read good or bad? If you have a Legere, it's always good. Okay, now back to the tutorial. So if we are playing a traditional Christmas song out of a real book, it's gonna sound like this, the way it's written. Which is incredibly boring and kind of lame sounding. It sounds like a elementary school choir concert. And obviously that's not how we want to sound. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to play it in a jazz style. So all that means is we're going to swing the 8th notes. So instead of playing, we're going to swing those 8th notes. And it's going to sound way better already just by swinging the 8th notes. So here's this first section of Deck the Halls in a jazz style. Now it's already sounding way better. So that's just with adding a jazz style, adding jazz 8th notes, swing 8th notes. The next thing we're gonna do is adjust our dynamics. So we're gonna play some notes loud, some notes soft. With these Christmas songs, it almost doesn't matter what you do. Pick random notes, play some soft, some loud, and it's gonna give you a whole lot of direction in your playing. Just by adding those dynamics, it gives you a whole bunch of direction. So obviously, as you play it, you're gonna find the dynamics that you like, and that's gonna be part of your arrangement. But try dynamics, put different dynamics in there. Don't just play all of your notes the same volume. The next thing that can be a very dramatic improvement is adding articulations. Again, and these Christmas songs are all kind of the same, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman, Deck the Halls. They all kind of have that up and down the major scale with a couple chords feel. So if you can do this to any of them, just change some articulation. So we're gonna add some dots, some dops, some accents, and it's gonna give the song a lot more texture. Take a listen to it. Again, that was a pretty drastic difference from So just by adding the swing style, some dynamics, and some articulations, you're already turning this thing into a more jazz standard kind of Christmas tune. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is change some of the rhythms. So we're going to make some of the notes longer and some of the notes shorter. So what you need to do, if you make one note longer, you have to make another note shorter so that you have 4 beats in a measure, or vice versa. If you make one note shorter, you have to make another one longer. So it'll sound like this. We're not going to make drastic changes. We're just going to like do little changes so that it sounds like more of a jazz tune. Again, a different way of playing it. And you've heard these Christmas carols sung so many different ways. Changing it up should not be that difficult because you've heard it sung so many different ways. So change some of your rhythms, and it's going to make it sound way better. So the next step is going to add a whole bunch of motion, and that step is repeat a note. So any of these quarter notes or dotted quarter notes, any of the longer notes, obviously not the eighth notes, you can repeat them and it's going to give you a bunch of motion. Now, obviously you don't want to repeat every quarter note, but pick different quarter notes or different dotted quarter notes and repeat them, and you're going to get a lot more motion in your song. You hear that? I repeated the C. Now I'm going to repeat the G after this. Just by doing that, I got a lot of motion. Without it, with it, so you get a whole bunch of motion just by repeating some of your quarter notes. So take a listen. Here's another version of it. Good. So we have pretty simple rules that are making drastic differences. First, we are swinging the eighth notes. Second, we are adding dynamics. Third, we are adding articulation. Fourth, we are changing some notes, or not some notes, but some rhythms. And fifth, we are repeating some notes. So the next step is add a note. In Christmas songs, I don't add a ton of notes just because they're so familiar that you don't really want to overdo it with like jazzing it up too much. But you can add some neighbor tones and some chord tones. They don't really fit that great in this song, but you can add a neighbor tone to pretty much any of these long notes and it's going to sound good. So in this one, I'm going to put a G right before the F after this first phrase, and you'll hear the neighbor tone. So a neighbor tone is the note above or the note below the gold note. So in this one, I'm talking about the F that's at the end of the first phrase. I'm going to play E, G, F, which actually gives you an enclosure. The E is the note below, the neighbor tone below. The F is the note above, and then you're going to land on the F. So it's going to sound like this. That top note is the neighbor tone that I added. I added the G. You can also add chord tones. You can add, just kind of play around with it. When you have one of those long notes, just add something in your scale. This one is in the key of F on the alto saxophone. So add something for your F scale. If it sounds good, keep playing that one. If it doesn't sound good, don't try that one again. That's kind of your rule in the beginning until you know exactly what note to add. Now, your last step adds a ton of character and sound and makes everything sound smoother. And that last step is to add embellishments. Embellishments are grace notes and turns and falls, all those kind of like frilly things that you can put on notes. So here's an example of adding some embellishments. I'll stop and tell you what I'm doing as I do it. Grace note into that A. I'm using a G sharp into the A. Grace note. Turn, I'm on the A. A, B flat, A, G, land on the F. Turns are great. Right there, I added a fall. A fall is just when you go between two notes and you play all the chromatic notes in between. So I'm going between the A and the F, and I am playing A, G sharp, G, F sharp, F. So again, that just adds a bunch of like smooth, cool sounding motion. So just by adding those couple steps to your Christmas carols, you can change them from sounding bland and boring straight Christmas songs to sounding really cool and jazzy Christmas songs where you can actually put some emotion and make them sound fun and kind of turn them into your own thing through ad-libbing. So here is the whole version of Deck the Halls. Now in the examples, I just played the first part over and over because in these Christmas songs, these parts repeat a ton of times. So play them a little bit different each time. The first time, add some grace notes. The second time, change some rhythms. The third time, change some articulations. Just be really creative with what you're doing so that it doesn't sound like the same section over and over. So here is Deck the Halls. And that's how you ad lib on a Christmas song. I'd like to give another shout out to Legere Reeds for sponsoring my videos for the month of December. If you have not given Legere Signatures a try and you are a saxophone player, I strongly suggest it. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. If you now understand how to ad lib and make your Christmas song sound more like a jazz standard, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and share it with your friends. Thanks a lot.